Hi, I wanted to make a video, and this is going to have to be in two parts because of YouTube's inability to let me upload something longer than 15 minutes. But I wanted to share some information specific to flying with a Great Dane puppy in cabin. This is something that I tried to research, and when I was researching how to do this, I came across a lot of videos that talked about how to fly with a pet, and specifically like videos about Great Danes and everything, but nothing that was really telling or helpful or provided enough detail around what products to use, what size your dog is, and how you went about that whole process. So for the sake of trying to split this up, I wanted to at least give some people some details of what I experienced in case anyone else is looking to fly with a Great Dane, and how it's done. A lot of people have a preference when they talk about how they choose to transport their pets, whether they use cargo or whether they use a pet transportation service. I elected to try to do the flying with a pet in cabin option only because of the distance that I was traveling, plus just the level of trauma that I didn't want to inflict, and then also trying to kind of mitigate or reduce the travel time as much as possible. So this video is going to contain the nitty-gritty details, right? The products that I use, the size of my dog, some of those details that I thought were missing from the information that I sourced when I started kind of looking about how to do all of this stuff. So I'm going to consult some notes here just so I remember to get these things available for you guys. First things first, my Great Dane, his name is Duncan, and I got him at 8 weeks old, and thoughts about breeding aside, I got him from a breeder friend of mine, and at 8 weeks, he weighed about 20 pounds. We're going to call it 20 pounds. It was maybe a little less than that, but measurement-wise, he was from his nose, like to the tip of his nose to his bottom, not the whole tail, but just his bottom, was about between maybe 21, 22 inches. And then from the middle of his shoulder blades to the end of his foot on the floor was about 12 to 13 inches. So that's kind of roughly his size at 8 weeks. He was the largest of his litter, so that just kind of gives you an idea of the size that my dog was at 8 weeks old. He's a black Great Dane, and that's just what his stats were. The carrier that I used to do all of this was a Sturdy Products pet carrier. It's the large size. The dimensions, I think they list the dimensions as like 12 by 12 by 8, but I don't think that's right. It's a lot longer than that. I think it's like 18. 12 by 12 by 18 sounds about right. But essentially it's just a longer carrier, and it kind of has a rounded top to it. It's a flexible carrier, so and it's fabric and flexible, and it's got mesh windows and the zippers and everything like that, so the pup can put his head out and see everything and everything like that. But because it's flexible, it's easier to go under the seat when you're flying on an airplane. Some of the other things that I purchased for this trip was a TSA leash and collar. I think it's called TSA Fast Pass. It's just a fabric and plastic leash and collar set, and it's designed to help you go through the TSA security checkpoint at the airport. There's no metal or anything, in any of the leash or the collar, so it's just helpful when you go through the metal detectors there. Additionally, some of the things that I brought were just a couple little toys here and there. If you can get something that has mama dog scent on it or something like that, it kind of helps with something familiar that the puppy can travel with. Some treats and toys, and those are always helpful things to bring with you. That's at your discretion what you want to do for treats and toys. I did not have the last couple of things here only because my intent was to get a travel bowl and dish, like kind of those collapsible ones. My intent was to go source that locally at the pet store when I traveled to my destination city. But plans changed. There were some things that happened later that afternoon that are irrelevant to this conversation, but I didn't end up making it over there, so I had to kind of make do. The other thing that is helpful that I would really suggest that I didn't even think to include is Clorox wipes or baby wipes or some kind of like antiseptic wipe that you can bring along with you, because accidents happen, and it's just helpful to have that along just in case. So those are the nitty-gritty details of the items that I purchased, as far as what products I used and what I brought along with me. A lot of good reviews about that sturdy bag. There's a lot of great reviews online about it, and it held up very, very well. I think they maxed out at like 20 pounds or whatever, so he was pretty well suited. He fit well in the carrier. I wouldn't have flown if I felt uncomfortable about how well he fit in the carrier. And then the Fast Pass collar that I got him was the size small, but I did expand it out as large as it would go, and it fit him comfortably. It wasn't too tight, it wasn't too loose, it was kind of just the right size, and I really only needed it for that one day. For the airline that I chose, just for, really quick details for this first part, I ended up going with Southwest. There's a lot of different airlines that do allow you to take pets in cabin with you, and if you have a preferred airline, definitely look up their pet policy online. But of the airlines that do permit pets to travel in cabin with you, the thing that I went with, the reason that I went with Southwest is because according to their pet policy, kind of as of March of 2020, was they did not list a breed or weight restriction amongst their requirements or their policies. So that means that I could fly with my Dane, in cabin, so long as he was at least 8 weeks of age and was in a carrier that fit underneath the seat. They do provide dimensions for the proper sized carrier, and Southwest will even encourage you to buy their brand of pet carrier. But in my research about this sturdy bag, a lot of people had success with bringing it on the plane, and it was acceptable and it met the requirements. So the only thing else that they require, it's a $95 pet fee. It's fine. They don't, Southwest does not permit any pets to travel in cargo, and that is most definitely a deal breaker for me. I did not want to, if I wouldn't fly in the cargo area of a plane, I wouldn't want my dog to fly in cargo. So I definitely wanted to make sure that that was an acceptable way for me to bring him on the plane. Sorry about the glare from my glasses. Anyway, so that's the basic details. 20-pound dog in a sturdy carrier, the large size, TSA, Fast Pass, leash and collar set, size small, but again expanded. Just a couple odds and ends things to bring with you. I was able to go through the process, but those are the details that I felt were missing when I was kind of researching everything else. I'm going to do a second part to this only because I am limited to kind of 15 minutes, but I wanted to make sure I was able to detail out the process of sort of how I was able to do it, not just the fact that I did it, but how I traveled with a Great Dane puppy on an airplane, and just hoping that would help people if they were wondering how to go through the process. I did consider if that wasn't an option given the puppy size. I didn't know how large the puppy was going to be when I purchased my ticket. But the contingency was if I wasn't comfortable with how well he fit in the carrier, then I would have driven the distance back with him. But 2,000 miles alone, one way with a puppy with, by yourself is kind of daunting. It would have taken several days, and I would have liked to just kind of reduce the amount of travel time and the level of trauma that could potentially happen because of all of that. So it's also kind of safer to fly, oddly enough. So those are the nitty-gritty details as far as the products and the airline that I chose and everything like that. My flight times were, I kind of planned them out. The first flight was about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and then I had about an hour and a half layover in between, and the following flight was about 2 hours. So that's a pretty decent travel time. I did try to time it out kind of that way, so I had not too much time having him confined in the cabin, and then also enough time in between flights so that I could take him to a pet relief area and he could stretch his legs and be out. Lastly, I guess the other thing, just quickly, if this is the only video you're going to watch, it's always a good idea to try to research with the airports that you're going to be flying in or out of if they have a pet relief area and where they are. Not every airport has them. Some airports have them outside of the TSA area, so before you even go through security, and some of them are outdoor, some of them are indoor. I got lucky in the airports that I was flying in and out of that they had indoor pet relief areas that were through security, so through the security checkpoint, so I didn't have to, take him out and do that whole rigmarole all over again. In the follow-up video that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about taking your dog through security. I know there's a lot of videos out there about it anyway, but just kind of detailing my experience and some things that happened to me and just things that I thought to share. So if there are other details that you are looking for, if you're thinking about traveling with a Great Dane puppy or you have questions, please let me know in the comments. I'm very excited to sort of start vlogging about my time with Duncan and sharing my experience with owning a Great Dane puppy and everything like that. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to hear from you. Thanks.